Good afternoon. Welcome to Cool Springs. Today is Wednesday, May the 13th, 2026. And this is a special one-time presentation. But we're going to follow up next week with another special presentation where we'll deal a little bit more deeply with the concept of the Sabbath day. The reason we started out to do today's is because last week the President of the United States issued a proclamation declaring this coming Saturday as a National Sabbath Day. That's never happened in our history before. I know because my husband was in the military for 23 years and I worked for the Army and still volunteer with the Army, that this coming Saturday is also every year on the calendar Armed Forces Day. We have holidays during the year that honor people who have served in the military. Armed Forces Day, coming up this Saturday, is to honor people who are currently serving in one of the branches of the military service. At the end of May, there is a national holiday called Memorial Day, where we are specifically honoring the memory of those who have died or been severely, life-alteringly wounded. People who are like amputees, or now they're paralyzed because of their service to the nation. Memorial Day is to honor those who have paid the ultimate price to sacrifice their lives that others may live and know freedom, or who have been severely wounded to the fact that their lives are permanently altered by their service to the nation. Then in July, we'll celebrate our National Independence Day. And in November, we'll celebrate Veterans Day, which honors people who have served in the past in one of the other branches of the military. So Armed Forces Day was already kind of on the calendar, and if you have a calendar that lists holidays, you look on this Saturday's date and you'll see Armed Forces Day listed there. But the president did something unusual here. He announced that he wants this coming weekend, from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday, to be a National Sabbath Day for the citizens of the United States, to take the time to rest, to focus on honoring God. Sabbath comes from our scriptures. From the Old Testament, the Jewish people were commanded to remember the seventh day as the day of worship, to keep it holy. In the New Testament, the early church, many of whom were Jewish, continued to celebrate Sabbath, but they also started worshiping on the first day of the week, Sunday, known as the Lord's Day, because they were focusing on the fact that Christ rose from the dead on Sunday, the first day of the week. So we have Christians who normally will worship on Sunday. Some denominations worship on Saturday. We have Jewish people who follow the command in Leviticus chapter 23 of worshiping God from sundown Friday to sundown Saturday as a Sabbath of rest. And because we are a nation at war, and because we are a nation deeply divided, and a nation that is raising up a generation now that knows very little about God, the president uses his authority as the commander of the nation and the chief executive officer to say, we're going to set aside this day, and we encourage all citizens to take a break from your routine, from your entertaining of yourselves, and focus your mind and your heart on honoring God and worshiping God. So this Saturday will be not only Armed Forces Day for people to honor those who are serving in uniform, putting themselves in danger right now, ready to serve at the beck and call of our nation, but it's a time for us to remember and listen to the call to honor God, to stop and reflect on, why am I filling my time with things? We just have concluded today's study of Ecclesiastes, where Solomon was saying, I tried work, I tried pleasure, I tried music and learning everything I could learn. And I tried things like enjoying food and drink, and none of that brought satisfaction. We need to focus on the fact that we are created by God, and the idea of, for once in our nation's history, taking a day, and specifically he chose sundown Friday to sundown Saturday because that mirrors the Jewish Sabbath, to acknowledge God, to contemplate what's the meaning of life and how can I draw closer to God, is something we ought to do. It's wonderful that we have national days like the National Day of Prayer. We have days like Thanksgiving, proclaimed to be an official date on our calendar going all the way back to the Civil War, 1863. It was established for that fourth Thursday in the month of November. Whether this is a one and done or whether we have a National Sabbath Day next year and the year after, we need to focus on the fact that ultimately God is in control. God ordains and allows the governments that we live under. God desires a relationship with us. God commanded in His scriptures for us to take a day of rest, to put aside the cares of the world and focus on our need for God and our relationship to Him, that we can find the rest we're searching for in our souls only when we are secure in the knowledge that we belong to God. Yes, we can be secure in the fact that we have a roof over our head, clothes on our bodies, food on the table, can provide for the physical needs of our families and loved ones. But the rest of soul that comes from knowing that we have given ourselves to God and that we are going to take this day to rest and acknowledge Him is a very important thing for us to understand. So next week we'll add a special teaching about Sabbath, because it came up here in our live audience that we really as Christians don't know a lot about the Sabbath and how it came to be and what it was designed to do. But don't forget this weekend. Set aside that time, Friday sunset to Saturday sunset, in your own life and in your own family's life, to take a Sabbath, to take a knee physically and emotionally, to focus on the goodness of God. Thanks for watching.